Hey everyone, it's Joey Edwards here, and I'm at the Bomb Factory in Dallas, Texas before the Volbeat show, and I've got a buddy here named Pete Abdou. He is a YouTuber. He's also the drum technician, or what is the official title?
Yeah, drum technician. Yeah.
Drum technician? Okay, so I'm here with Pete. We came out early. We're going to enjoy the show. I wanted to meet up with him and ask him a few questions since he gave us his time. We really appreciate it. So, you know what? I saw your latest video where you wrapped the drums in, I believe the bass drums have the jaws. Tell us a little bit more about where'd you get the wrap from? You know, I know what inspired it, but maybe just recap for those who haven't seen.
John's a big horror movie fan, so he's been wanting to make a monster kit forever. And I mean, as big as it is a monster kit, but a different type of, monster kit. So
like literally monsters.
Literally monsters, yeah. So, I mean, he's got a row of bobbleheads that are all monster bobbleheads, and he wanted to make the drums that way too. So, he's a classic movie monster guy.
Right.
There's an artist named Basil Gogo that did all the old artwork of Dracula and Creature from the Black Lagoon, and I think he even did some Misfits covers.
Okay.
And me and John kind of sat and went through a bunch of pictures, and he picked a bunch that he thought he liked, so we'd have to try to find high resolution prints to send to the company that was going to make them, and then decide on a color and all that. So we went through. We had 10 that we had to choose because he has 10 drums he wanted to wrap, and we ended up finding quite a few. We actually changed one out because it didn't quite look the way we wanted it.
Right. Which one was that?
We initially, on his 2 floor toms, we had 2 different Draculas. We had the Christopher Lee Dracula, and then the other one is, I'm going to have to remember now, right? The other one, forgive me, John. Christopher Lee's drawing wasn't high resolution enough,
right? So
we changed it over to Ingrid Pitt, who played in a bunch of horror movies, including, and she was Countess Dracula in one of the movies as well. So that was one of them that we switched over, and then there was another one that there's another drum that has Nosferatu on it, but it's a close-up, and he wants to change it to more of a far shot to see it better, for clarity. So that's actually something I have to still do. I haven't been able to change it out yet because we've been on tour. So.
I mean, how visible is it from the crowd?
Big. Like the bass drum images are pretty big. We have King Kong from the 30s and Gorgo, who everyone mistakes for Godzilla, is a 1961 British tribute to Godzilla.
Right.
And he had his own movie. And John decided to go more obscure than just do Godzilla.
Okay.
He went Gorgo. So those 2 images are pretty big, and you can really see those. And then one of his front toms is actually a picture of Jerry Only from the Misfits.
Okay.
Who was a friend of John's, and he promised Jerry that if he did a monster kit, that he would put him on the drum.
The double bass, I see how it's you have Jaws down there. Why the decision to put Jaws front and center and maybe not alternate them and put one creature on one and one creature on the other?
Jaws is his all-time favorite.
Right.
I mean, he collects everything Jaws and multiple versions of the posters, the shirts, whatever.
Right.
So
cool.
That actually came about before I wrapped the kit. When we toured in April this year, those heads were made for the tour, and we kept them on that kit because we knew we were going to wrap it.
Right. So they were already on there before the monster motif. Okay, cool.
Yeah. And it just kind of completes it, really. Now that we do have the wraps. A company out of Maryland made the wraps named Bum Wrap Drum Company, BUMWRAP Drum Company, in Maryland, and they're really easy to do. I mean, it's not, once they make them and they send them to you, they don't ruin the finish on your drum. You wrap it around and it sticks to itself. It's basically peel and stick.
Right, it's just vinyl. You can just take it off when you're done.
It's just time consuming because you have to cut all the holes for the screws to go through, and I'll put all the hardware back on, and it's time consuming, and all John's drums are internally mic'd, so you got to take the mic systems out and rebuild that, make sure they're working. So I mean, it's a task, especially if you have a big kit.
Well, I'm glad you covered that. I was kind of going to go there. I was going to ask. First of all, a big shout out to Seth. That's your nephew, right?
Seth, yeah.
Yeah, I like to watch Pete's YouTube videos quite a bit, and Seth can play guitar. In fact, you play drums yourself, and you teach drums.
Yeah, White's Music Education Center in North Attleboro, Massachusetts. I was there for 15 years. I moved to California in 2009, so I stopped teaching there, and didn't really pursue it in California. Got more into the crew stuff and touring and drum teching more than the playing part of it. I played with a few bands out in California while I wasn't on the road, but it's hard when you're on the road. You can't really commit to a band, so it kind of falls to the wayside until you're off the road.
Right. Well, what I was going to ask you about the drum kit is earlier you'd mentioned that you weren't on stage yet.
you got to get all the lighting up first because that hangs from the ceiling. So the whole stage is full of lighting, truss, and sound and all that. So we have to wait for that to go up in the air before we can actually put our stuff up there. So that's the first thing to do in the morning is get the rigging done and get the motors to hang the truss and get all that stuff up so that the backlines last.
Do you set up and tear down the drum kit, including the microphones and everything, in between every show, or does it just load up as is? And how do you break it down and set it up? I mean,
everything goes into 4 cases that I had designed specifically for this kit. They all break down into 4 basically red cases that I can say to anybody, it doesn't matter if they know anything about drums or not, go get the 4 red cases, you can't miss them. So they all fit, they stack, and they fit perfectly the width of a semi or a trailer, and everything loads into there. So everything comes apart. You know, all the drums come off the stand.
So it's modular, but if it does come apart. And
I don't have to fold a lot of the boom cymbal arms or anything. I just pull them off the rack and put them in the case. Okay. So it's made for that too. So I don't have to completely fold everything down and get it as small as I would have to normally. So it's convenient. You know, it's pretty easy once you get used to it. Even though it's a large kit, once you get used to it, it's like second nature. You know.
Very cool. You know, I'm going to say that I'm biased here, but John is the hottest, best, most talented drummer in rock music today.
He's one of the most consistent drummers that I've encountered, for sure. Like every night that he gets up there, I mean, rarely makes a mistake. He plays all the parts exact to what, he played on the record or what he felt the night before. It doesn't change a lot. He knows those songs like
I think they all do. This is gonna be the 5th time that I've seen them, and so far in four shows they've been very consistent, and I've seen them with different lineups. This is going to be the 3rd time with Rob on guitar. And the first 2 times were in the festivals that I mentioned, and that was back when Thomas was that the guitarist? Brendan?
How long ago?
Well, in 2012.
That was Hank Sherman from Merciful Fate.
Is that who that was?
He filled in for a year after Thomas left.
Okay.
All the runs in 2012. And then Rob came on board at the end of that year as they were recording Outlaw. Right. And he was helping co-produce and played a bunch of leads on it. And then Michael really liked what he was doing, so he decided he was going to ask him to stay. And he did.
To ask Rob to stay.
Yep.
Speaking of that, Rob, so he's produced, he's engineered, same thing. He's engineered the last 2 discs. In this last one, you were without a bass player at the time, and there's some promo shots with only 3 band members. Right. And Rob has the bass credit on this album. Right. I'm a bass player actually, hobbyist, and I think some of the bass lines are pretty cool.
Bass-wise, guitar-wise, just the songwriting is great.
Right. Yeah, and from the drums, the bass, the guitar, the vocals, that was my favorite thing, honestly, is Michael's vocals. Yeah. When I first heard of them, I was like, well, his cadence, his delivery, his range, is very impressive. Yeah. What's your most favorite thing about touring with these guys? I probably can ask you what your least favorite thing is.
You want to ask my least favorite thing?
Yeah, the least favorite thing? I guess the least favorite thing would be talking to guys on the sidewalk outside before the show.
The least favorite thing is probably a lot of the travel we do if we have to fly too much. Especially in Europe, when we do festivals, there's a lot of downtime because the festivals aren't back-to-back. Right. So you might do one, you have 2 days off, you got to fly to the next location. Right. And then you fly back. And then you got 2 or 3 days off and you fly to the next location. So that's nerve-wracking a lot of times. The Wolf.
They appear to be, they're very huge in the States.
Yeah.
Okay. But they're from what I can gather, twice as big in Europe. So, and they're 3 times. So they're doing festivals to sold out shows of 100,000 people, 90,000 people on a regular basis.
They sell out arenas over there.
80.
Yeah.
Their outdoor festivals are huge.
And the outdoor festivals for sure. Yeah. They're and this year they headlined a lot of them that they would have played an earlier slot in previous years. Like Rock'em Ring and Rock'em Park and all those. They headline those this year.
I do appreciate you meeting with me. I just got a couple more questions. We saw when we pulled up that what is it called? The backdrop,
we call it a skull wing.
The skull wing.
Metal skull wing, yeah.
Okay, so that, right. Yeah. This right here is not going to make it on stage tonight, and you said there was a couple of reasons for that.
Yeah, size of the stage, what happens with the skull wing, and people who've seen this live through the whole tour, is it hangs in the air. In Europe, it actually lights on fire.
Right.
and it shoots fire. But we don't do that over here. The budget's not there yet. With insurance you got to get and all that stuff,
Right.
liability, it's not worth doing over here yet. So, and the venue size matters with these things. So we bring the skull wing anyway, just for effect. And
Sure.
Niller does lighting on it, and it looks really cool. It lights up different colors, and it's it hangs in front of a backdrop, but then there's another backdrop in front of that that's called a kabuki,
Okay.
and it's a tearaway.
Right.
So when you look at it as an audience, you'll see a backdrop that after say 5-6 songs gets torn away, and then it's the backdrop and the skull wing in front of it.
Right.
If it's hung too close, a lot of times that when you tear that away, it'll get caught up on the skull wing, and that's kind of what happened today. So instead of risking tearing that really expensive backdrop
Right.
by it piercing it or whatever, they decided that it was too close. There's no way around it. We don't want to risk it. Let's take it down, and we'll just use the backdrop itself.
Sure.
So I mean, that you make those decisions as you test things out, and you just sometimes you don't use everything that you have.
So, even though you guys have your game down from city to city, everything changes. You have
Things change, yeah. The venue size changes, the depth of the stage changes, the height, everything, ceiling height. How much you can hang because of weight limits too. A lot of times you can't hang too much stuff because of the weight limit on the ceiling too. So that happens very rarely, but it does happen.
Right.
So.
Well, real quick while we're rolling, I do want to give a shout out to Leah Bell. She's a huge fan of Volbeat.
She's very good.
Yeah, and well, I'm sorry, what was that?
She's very good.
Did you hear that, Leah?
I've seen her on YouTube. Yep.
Yeah. And yeah, we love all of your acoustic covers, Leah. You're great, and we love the Beautiful Bunch. It was pretty cool. You're a YouTuber, plus you have a really fabulous job, a pretty cool job.
Thank you.
And
I love it.
like I said, I appreciate your time. And until the next video, thanks for watching.
See ya.